All right, here we are, another episode of Let There Be Talk. It is Monday, August 5th, episode number 488, coming to you live from Brooklyn, New York City. That is right, I'm out here in Brooklyn, couch surfing it on my man Marcus Price's couch. I got to give him some big shout out and love. Thank you, my man, for giving me a spot to lay down. I'm out here doing some shows, which I'm sure some of you are surprised. Some of you that might know or heard of what happened to me last week. I might as well just give you a quick rundown real quick here. Last week I did a couple spots and then went home. Before I went home, I stopped at the Albertsons to pick up some groceries. And the left side of my body completely just shut off. And I fell to the ground, and I was laying there like, wow, I don't know what the fuck happened. So I rushed to the hospital thinking it was a stroke. Left side just off for like a second, but then back on totally normal. But there's no way that was totally normal. So I was like, well, we gotta see what this is. And I went and was in the hospital all night, got an MRI. They came back, they said, okay, good news, no stroke, but you do have a severe herniated disc in your neck, and looks like you're going to need surgery. So immediately good news, but then also bad news for a guy like me. No health care, who travels for a living, sitting in shitty airplane seats, and a non-stop go hustle. So now I am on that journey of figuring out what I'm going to do with the mystery of that. There's no crazier thing than the back. Everybody has a backstory. Oh, this happened to my back. This, here's what you do. This is what you don't do. I've gotten hundreds of emails, and I cannot thank you all for your advice. And now I just got to figure out what to do. I'm trying to avoid surgery and do this somehow organically with stretching, acupuncture, some CBD, see what I can do to battle it. But most of all, I when something like this happens, then it throws me completely off creatively, and I start to stress, which is terrible for yourself, and freak out, about stuff like this. So look, I know I can beat this, but what happens is then it starts fucking with my diabetes. That kind of swings back into action because I'm just freaking out when my body and my core is not stable. In the meantime, I feel totally fine to work. So that's the weirdest part. I felt great 1 second before I collapsed at the Albertsons, and I felt great a minute after it happened, which was even scarier. Like, what kind of fucking time bomb is that? It's funny, while I was laying in the hospital and thinking it was a stroke, you immediately start changing everything in your life. Like, okay, I'm not going to do comedy or anything anymore. I got to just get my health together and start living my life, live the back end of my life, and just enjoy every day. And then they come in and say no stroke, and there I am 2 minutes later looking at motorcycle wheelies on Instagram. But in all honesty, with everything, the tragedies over the weekend, the mass shootings, and the and some other things that happened, it is a reality that you do need to remember that we are only here for a short amount of time, and we should enjoy it and love each other and try to fix some shit, man. Because It is brutal out there. It really is brutal out there. So I want to 100% say thank you from the bottom of my heart to all of you and your incredible emails and your concerns. It means so much to me to have this extended family of friends and listeners from the comedy community and the podcast world. It meant so much to me to see how many people reached out. So thank you, and I will try to figure this out and see what the next part of the journey is. But in the meantime, I'm going to keep doing stand-up and pounding through and enjoy myself. I want to say thanks to my guest today before I even get into it. This man, his name is Troy Conrad, and he is a huge part of the Los Angeles Comedy Store and the Los Angeles comedy community. He is a staple in the store, and everyone loves this man. He is a complete artist, and he is a photographer. He was a comedian. He was a show producer, creator, and most of all, just a fantastic human. So it was an honor to have him on today. This man has shot some amazing historic photos of these times that are going down at the Comedy Store right now. In the last 6 years, some of the most amazing times in comedy, and he's been there to capture it with his lens. And I truly believe that one day, just as he says on this episode that Rogan said, that people are going to look back at these photos and be like, wow, look at this era of comedy that was popping off at the store. So I know you guys are going to enjoy this episode because it mixes up everything that I love. It's comedy, it's photography, it's a man going for it and living out his dream, working outside the box, and I love all that stuff. Before we do bring on Troy here, I do want to tell you to follow him on Instagram as you're listening to this episode, and look at these photos. It's pretty amazing to look at what has gone down at the store in the last 6 years, and in the comedy world, especially in Los Angeles with all these different shows that happened over the years. Meltdown, Fish Taco, Hot Tub, 12 Shiny Nickels, the store, of course, the Factory, the Improv, all this stuff. And to see people that I work with every day enjoy massive success, it's just fantastic. And to be able to look at this stuff and be like, wow. Okay, I want to give you guys some quick show dates coming up. A lot of great new dates are here. I'm in New York for the next week. If you want to see me, I'll be at the Stand and the Comedy Cellar. So spin around and check that out. I've got some amazing shows coming up in August with Marin, my man, Mr. Mark Marin. We're going to be in Austin, Dallas, and Houston. I will be headlining Cleveland Hilarities September 20th and 21st. I'm coming to Omaha and Detroit, Sacramento, and San Francisco with Joey Diaz. I'm headlining in Nashville October 5th. And what else? A few other shows. So check it out. DeanDelRey.com. All the tickets are available. DeanDelRey.com. Also, all of you Patreon subscribers, the new bonus episode will be out tomorrow. Sorry, I missed it last week due to my MRI. But I want to give some big love to Alan Emberg, an old friend of mine and a solid human. Thank you, buddy, for your donation. And also Jim Mercury, I guess that's Mercury or Mercery. Jim Mercery. Both of you guys, I love you. And anybody wants to subscribe to the Patreon, it's Dean Del Rey. Just go to patreon.com/Dean Del Rey. Also, a little special treat for all the Del Raisers out there, since this is a photography episode, and some of my favorite photographers are out there busting their ass, making a living. Baron Woolman, one of the greatest photographers ever, and a guest on Let There Be Talk. He was the first photographer for Rolling Stone magazine. He is offering for all Del Raisers a special deal for his new Jimi Hendrix photo book. This thing is insane. Jimi Hendrix, 1968 to 70. Limited edition collector's book of all of Baron's photos that Jimmy took, or Baron took of Jimmy from 68 to 70. You got to look at this thing, man. It's housed in this beautiful case. Comes with an 8x10 custom print of Jimmy, signed by Baron. A set of 4 Jimi Hendrix postcards. This book is usually $250, but for the Del Raisers, $125. And I'm telling you, I got it sitting on my coffee table right now, and people come over and they flip out on it. Jimi Hendrix, 1968 to 70. There is no more iconic guitar player on the planet, and Baron was there to shoot the photos. Email him at Baron, B-A-R-O-N, at BaronWoolman.com. So it's Baron at BaronWoolman.com. He also has amazing photos he's selling on his website. My house is covered in them. All his photos blow my mind. He's got some Zeppelin, some AC/DC, some Doors. This stuff is next level. Get this Jimi Hendrix book. Okay, guys, I love you, and I can't wait to see you all out there on the road. Keep the candles lit. This is episode number 488 with Mr. Troy Conrad. All right, here we are, another episode of Let There Be Talk. A fantastic guest, an old friend, and a good friend, as I call him. His name is Troy Conrad, but I call him Troy Conrads.
Yeah, because of my Instagram. Yeah. I know. There's people that actually think that's my name, because that's how they first knew me, and it's funny to me.
Troy Conrads. How are you, buddy?
I'm great, man.
So good to have you on, man.
Dude,
thanks for these photos you brought over to me.
Oh, yeah, dude. I brought you some prints from the Bon Scott tribute.
They're so good, man. It's like you sent me these photos, or you posted some photos a couple days ago, and I was like, fuck, I got to get Troy on the podcast. What, you know?
Yeah, dude.
Because I think about, when I sit down and think about you, I think, like, to me, all of a sudden, and as much as the comedians and the audience and the fans and everything that's going on at the Comedy Store, I really feel that you are a giant part of it. As much as everybody, you are a slice in the pie there of the success and the energy and the incredible vibe in the last 5 years.
Dude, I think of the Comedy Store as the Whole Foods of the world of comedy. And I'll tell you what I mean. I mean, everything there is very organic. Like, everything there happens organic. There's no contrived bullshit there. There's no, like, cruise ship comedy.
No.
It's all real shit. And people are working new stuff out. People are working their hours and developing, and it's such an amazing scene. I always say it's the epicenter of the world of comedy right now. In the whole world, the Comedy Store is in the center. And then the Improv is also a big part of that. Like, what's happening now at the Improv too is incredible. And the awesome thing is those clubs might be competitors, but they're cooperators.
Yeah.
Like, there's no like, oh, you're going to the, like, everybody gets along. The managers from the Comedy Store go to the Improv. The managers from the Improv go see shows at the Comedy Store. Where does that happen? Not in the small town I started in stand-up.
the Comedy Store was just kind of like this. It's almost like a Greyhound station of a building. It's like you're there, you got there, you don't know how you got there. Nobody really knows. They're just kind of like one day they step off and they're like, oh, here's some other people that are kind of freaky like me. And in the meantime, years go by and all of a sudden stuff just grew out of there. Of course, we have the history of the building, but when I came in there, it was a ghost town and not what it is now. And to think about what it is now and what you're saying organically is so true. We were all there just trying to survive.
Yeah.
And trying to get funny or trying to do have our place, our foot on the ground there. And all of a sudden, everything just flourished. And it, like you said, totally organic.
Dude, organic.
No one was down there like, I want to get famous.
No, and no one was like, great, we got to put full page ads in the paper with. It's like, no, you know what? Everybody's just doing a really great job and they're managing it well. Now Adam took over and that place, you know, Rogan helped build it. Stanhope opened the door to like those main room shows when that main room used to be empty.
That was great.
Stanhope came in and started doing his hour there.
And also Marin, man, big part of it.
Sure.
His podcast was absolutely exploding at the time,
Yep.
and he would constantly talk about the Comedy Store on the podcast.
So true.
And he was really kind of giving it a play-by-play. Every few weeks, he'd be like, fuck, I was down there. I was just eating it. I don't know what the fuck was going on. Sometimes, I don't know, man, you know? And, and people were like, what is this? And then Rogan was in there, and then Gerard, Ari, and Louie all shot specials in there, and all of a sudden it's on TV. Then you got the TV show I'm Dying Up Here. I mean, it just like all that. If you look at it, 6 years ago, never even.
Oh my God.
Never even looked like any of that was just.
You would never know.
Not at all. You were just walking around like, hope they don't sell this place. You know, once the House of Blues sold, you're like, fuck. Because for me, I love the place. Even. Not necessarily because of, I go on there every night, but what it represented, too. It was dangerous. It was the last kind of outlaw place on the Strip besides, say, I would say, like the Rainbow being like, that thing is just what it is. You're like, what? How does this even happen, the Rainbow in 2019? So my real point of all this long ramble here was, you kind of came in there. I didn't know who you were. And you started shooting some photos. And you were kind of a lot like me as far as comedy. You're just kind of learning things with your camera, your shooting. What is this?
Well, I was already working as a photographer, but I wasn't working shooting live stuff, right? So I came in not to shoot stuff at the Comedy Store. I came in to shoot roast battle specifically because Paul Provenza, who is a genius, he brought me in. He's like, you got to see this show. I went and saw it and I was like, how the fuck do they not have somebody taking pictures of this? You got the wave, you got the judges, you got the haters table, you got these great new comics. Some of them have only been doing comedy a few months and they're killing at roasting, right? And I was like, how is nobody capturing this in stills? So I was like, I went to Brian. I was like, dude, I got to and Jeff, I got to shoot this show. And I did that for, I don't know, 4 and a half years, something like that. And what Roast Battle taught me is how to shoot literally the most difficult conditions in live events, which is extremely low light,
super low
belly room,
just black
dark
room, just 2 lights
to shoot action in the dark without any light assistance. That's the biggest challenge you could have as a photographer, to catch something moving in low light. Like, it's not possible, but I made it. It took me a while, but I made it work. And then I started shooting, other stuff in the store because I'm like, this is so cool. What's going on? And and now they don't, they're really strict about, they don't let people come in and take pictures. And I developed a relationship with them. They're like, we want you to do this. We need you to do this. So it's been amazing, man. But Roast Battle really helped me get to a level in terms of the challenges that I had to overcome. Man, it was amazing, dude.
So when you're first in there and you bring your first camera in, what camera do you bring in and immediately go, uh-oh, this ain't going to work, or what's happening?
Well, it's all lenses, right? Cameras are so low on the ladder in terms of importance.
But setting-wise, for low, dark,
Yeah.
right?
Setting-wise, yeah. I mean, I started shooting on Canon. I had a Canon 6D full frame, and then I had a Canon mirrorless, which I'm the biggest fan of mirrorless. Now I'm all Sony mirrorless, right?
Oh, I just had Ronnie Lyon on last week.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that guy.
Yeah, he shot also at the
That's right.
AC/DC show.
Oh, yeah, I met that dude.
And he was telling me about, like, Steve Rose just went all mirrorless, and everybody's all
I
about
talked with Steve at that show. I was like, dude, you got to be moving to Sony, man. And he was like, yeah, next week I'm testing out this new Sony. So he moved over, huh?
Oh, yep, yeah.
Dude, Steve Rose, a legend.
Yeah.
Big shout.
So you get a mirrorless and
So yeah, I had a Canon. I think it was called the Canon M.
I remember it was a little small
it was a
camera.
tiny little thing,
it's
man.
because you were in there with this little camera, and I thought
It's all lenses, though.
Yeah, but it's funny when you come from an old school world, you're like,
Yeah.
what's that dumb thing? He's like
know.
got like a pocket point and shoot.
Right,
He's in here
that's what it
shooting.
looks like.
Yeah, and then the photos would come back, and I'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So you're in there with that thing.
Yeah, I was in there. I was shooting. You know, I try to never ever have a lens that's. I shoot with a lot of like super wide aperture. I don't want to get super technical, but like really super wide aperture lenses, so you can let a lot of light in and shoot in that dark place.
Is that kind of that fisheye look?
The fisheye is like a
separate thing.
2.8 aperture. That's about as narrow as I'll go. Because anything higher than that, you're screwed, man. You're not gonna be able to shoot with anything higher than that. I like to shoot at 1.4. I just got a 1.1 that's almost matching the human eye,
Yeah.
which is incredible because our eyes will adjust in the dark. But a camera lens, you better have a badass lens to be able to do that. So so that fisheye that I did the Hall series with, which is these shots that I did in the Hall where all the headshots are, that was with a 8mm 2.8, and then I also have a 12mm f2. That's a really, and again, that's technical, but basically what that means is that's letting a ton of light into that camera.
Well, what I like about you, and we talk about the Hallway series, and a lot of people are go, I don't know what that is, but a lot of people do know what that is because the Hallway series is kind of what put you on the map at the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
And also, it made me realize that, okay, there's a lot of photographers out there, but there's what I call an artist, and that's what you were because you have to create a shot. That's not just, here's a bunch of photos of comics standing here. You had a vision of having a fisheye in the hallway at the store where the comics every day hang out and wait to go on.
Dude, Doug Stanhope has a joke about how boredom is a disease worse than cancer, right? He's got this great bit about it. And I've always been the biggest Stanhope fan. To me, boredom is the greatest disease I've ever had because it pushes me. I get bored so fucking easy. And when someone is shooting a show and they're just standing in the back of the room with a telephoto lens, I'm like, I don't ever want to be that guy. To me, anybody can do that. You get a monkey or a robot to do that because there's no challenge. There's nothing creative in that. It's just, you're getting meat and potatoes. I always push myself to like do something different, even if I fuck it up. I don't care about the mistakes because that's what photography, that's how you learn.
Like
I'd rather
comedy.
have weird shit,
Like comedy. You're bombing with the camera, you're bombing with material.
Right, exactly,
Right.
exactly.
When I first looked at the hallway photos, and I will post one up for you guys on Monday when this episode comes out, that way you can see what we're talking about, and I'll post a few of Troy's photos throughout the day, but you can also go to his Instagram. When I first saw the photo, what it really reminded me of growing up in the late 80s was the metal guys, specifically Metallica and Anthrax, shot most of their stuff with a fisheye lens.
Oh.
And it became this big, iconic look. It was like, wow.
Yeah.
And then Guns N' Roses even did a video with a full-on fisheye lens. And I will show you that when we're done. which was it was a big thing for a long time. And then skateboarding.
Yes.
So skateboarding grabbed onto this,
I love
Skateboarder
it.
magazine.
Yeah,
and I even
man.
talked to Glenn E. Friedman about it, who was on the podcast about 6 months ago, about this look. And he was like, yeah, you know, fuck the fisheye.
I know. Photographers will. I asked a friend of mine. He's like, "Oh man, don't use that fisheye. It's hacky." And I was like, I think I took a couple months. I was like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't have." Don't listen to other people.
Yeah.
Because it's all about pushing the boundaries of something, finding a new angle and a new way to shoot. You know, you don't just stand there and hold it eye level and shoot. You find different creative ways to do it. And sometimes a fisheye is the perfect thing to capture that emotion and tone of the room, especially black and white, because your brain fills in all the rest and it feels just right, you know?
I remember probably one of my greatest memories of doing comedy, and I have a lot of memories that are great. You know, L.A. Forum with Burr, headlining the Comedy Works the first time, getting past at the Cellar and the Store. All these are very big memories in my mind, but one of the greatest memories to me, and it made me so proud, was there was a time when you were about to shoot Dave Chappelle in the hallway.
Yes.
And I was there with Dave. I had a buddy of mine there, Paul, who was visiting from, Randy, sorry, who was visiting from San Francisco. There was a couple of us standing there talking to Chappelle. And you said, hey, can you guys clear the hall? I'm going to shoot Dave real quick. Because that's what you do. You clear the hall and you do a straight shot of the comic, and it gives this look, and you see all the photos. And it was so great. He goes, nah, man, I want my friends in the photo.
You know what he say? He goes, you know what, man? No. He goes, don't move. He goes, I like these guys. Keep them in the photo.
Yeah. And man, I felt so fucking
And you're
good.
right up front, man.
Well, not only that though, but I was just like, I'm such a Chappelle fan, and I had opened for him, and we talk motorcycles every time we see each other.
Nice.
So to have that photo was, and it's amazing. It's Tom Papa, me, my buddy
Keith Johnson's in there.
Yeah, but all of us have glasses on pretty much.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
It looks like this. It just looks like this nerd hipster crew, and then Dave like standing over us, going, "You fools ain't funny." You know. I love the photo, but
dude,
it was a magic day, and really that series, I think, was a magic series because it really brought all of the comedians together in this room. When you walk into the Comedy Store in the main room, there's just walls of these photos that you hung up and everything, and it makes me look at it like, God, this is so great. I'm part of this place, and you documenting all this. It's wild.
It's another organic thing. Like, I just feel like that needs to be documented. I'm glad that I'm a part of it, because it's really amazing what's going on. And Rogan said this to me a bunch of times. He's like, someday we're going to look back at this time, all this stuff, and go, holy shit, this really was an amazing time. But you never realize it when you're in it. It's like that Woody Allen movie, Midnight in Paris,
right?
Where it's like, you never appreciate the era that you're in, but later on, people look back and go, "Oh, that was the era," right? You know, like
I'm the opposite. I'm like, this is
I agree with you. I think we're appreciating it.
We are, because when it was empty, when you were doing comedy to like 9 people and everybody else was at the Improv, like, this is the room, you know, and you're like, yeah, all right, well, we got our clubhouse of freaks over here. It's all good. We'll get something. If we don't, we're family over here.
Yep.
There's a little competition, but we also drive each other and we love each other.
Yep.
We pick each other up, anything we do. And it always felt like that to me. And it still feels like that to me. Even when I was in New York for a year working, I was like, I would see your photos and I'd be like, fuck, I got to fucking, man, you know?
Dude, there's an organic peer pressure at the store, and it makes people get better. You know that when you walk on stage, you can't get away with like just a simple, like, hacky joke. Like, nobody wants to do that, you know?
Yeah.
And because of that organic, and it's an unspoken peer pressure, but it's like you're driven to be better all the time. You know?
Absolutely.
Like the Cobb's Comedy Club in the 90s in San Francisco had a dude, Tom, hold on, Tom Sawyer was his name. Tom Sawyer was the manager, and he would actually bust people's balls all the time. He'd be like, hey, you've been doing that pot joke for 3 months now, man. It's time to move on. He would actually like bust people's balls. I'd hear comics complaining all the time, like, man, he's telling me what to do. It's like, dude, take the fucking note. He's trying to get you better. He's not being a dickhead control freak.
Yeah.
He's just trying to like run a club with some integrity.
He cared.
He cared enough about you. And you know, that was the time when Maron was there. Al Madrigal was a new comic at that time.
Were you in the Bay Area? Like,
yeah, I lived for a short time with Kevin Kataoka. I don't know if you know Kevin. Kevin's a writer now for a bunch of different shows. He's amazing. And then another guy named Vernon Chapman. And Vernon went to write for South Park and Chris Rock and created Wonder Chosen, which is arguably the greatest show that's the most edgy show that's ever been on television. It was on MTV2, and they could only air it at 4 a.m. to avoid like complaints and lawsuits.
what was it called?
Wonder Chosen. If you watch it, you'll go, holy fuck. Even now you look back and you go, oh, you couldn't even do this now.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
it was way over the line, but it was beautiful.
So what is your real background? Because were you a comedian?
Dude, I started in Phoenix. I started in Phoenix.
I know you're from Phoenix.
I started stand up in Phoenix in I think 94. And then I ended up developing there, working the road. George Lopez brought me on the road with him. And, you know, I did the clubs all over the country and all that stuff. And I did all the B rooms and I loved it. And then when I came out to LA, I kept doing that. I did a show called The Comedy Jesus Show, which ended up touring around the world. It was basically like an atheist-style Jesus doing a PowerPoint on the Mount. And I did characters. It was a full-hour show made into a DVD. It got distribution at like Walmart and all these places, even though it was like had all this anti-Walmart shit.
yeah.
And
they didn't check the content.
They do not screen their things that they
that's
sell.
A Jesus store for sure.
Right. I know. It was crazy. So I did all that stuff. And then in 2000, let's see, this would be 2011, I created Setlist, which is an improvised stand-up show.
Yeah.
Partnered with Paul Provenza.
I did it and ate a dick.
You did? Oh, that's right. You did a Nerd Melt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just didn't understand the show. I thought it was.
Oh, did you eat a dick?
Well, I thought it was like kind of like Jeremiah's, where people gave suggestions.
Oh, we give you weird shit, like like impossibly weird shit.
Yeah,
and
describe the show.
When people do it the first time, they're like, "Wait, what the fuck?" And then it's like sometimes you have to do it once, and then you go back and you go, "Okay, now I'm ready for the unknown on that level." So Provenza and I, we write this crazy, weird, nonsensical stuff, put it up on a projector screen, and it's like that. It's like Jeremiah has that brilliant show. We started ours around the same time. He has stand up on the spot. You yell stuff out. Well, this is like we spent a lot of time writing these topics and premises and weird suggestions.
But tell him what a premise would be like. It's so abstract that the thing comes up on the board, on the screen, and you're a comic, you're on stage, and you see it, and it'll say something like...
Biological origins of the foot fetish.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck does... Now you have to dive into, like, what does that mean?
And that's an easy one, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's weird... sometimes there's things that's like circumstitious.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? That's not a real word.
Right.
We figure it out.
Yeah.
You know? Like... and in doing that, you're leading the performer into the unknown, into places they've never been, and then they have to just go deep, you know?
I enjoyed the insanity of it, and I ate a pretty large dick, but I was cool with it, but I was just more thrown off like, oh, fuck, these aren't even real things on the screen. At first, I thought that it was fake. Like you guys threw up something just to fuck with me. And
no.
And then I was like, oh no, this is the show.
Oh yeah, no. You know what? Well, you're half right. There is an element of like, yeah, we're fucking with you, but it's in order to throw you out of your comfort zone. The whole show is about not being in any type of comfort zone, just like any improvised stand-up situation. Like I always say like, the best shows that I remember is like when something really went wrong in the room where the fucking power goes out or the lights go out and you're in complete darkness.
Yeah. And I was at the stand once and a giant roach ran across the stand sign behind me.
The sign, yeah.
So I said, anyone use condoms out there? And this woman screamed, ah! And I was like, oh, I said condoms. What is that? And she goes, behind you.
Fuck.
And I looked, and I grabbed the mic stand, and I sorted it. Blam! It fell onto the ground and ran through the crowd. People were screaming, right?
Oh.
And that type of thing, you can't even do material after that. You just have to riff on the roach, the woman, where we're
You're
at.
now out of your comfort zone,
Yeah.
and you have no choice but to address that moment.
Right.
And that moment is everything in stand-up, you know?
Yep.
It's like, that's the real. That's when that's when it's like shit just got real. And that's what we're trying to like recreate in a real authentic way. But also, we're writing this stuff in advance, obviously. And through that, you're now thrown into this thing where everything's real, you know?
Right.
And it is definitely, when people do it for the first time, it can be really tricky and challenging. But, you know, once you know that, oh, it's all about, it's like you're getting thrown curveballs. The second time you do it, you go, oh, the curveballs are coming from behind now, and helicopters are dropping them. Fuck, now I'm ready.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then nothing throws you.
So you're doing this show,
And then I had to stop stand-up.
and then you had to stop stand. Why did you have to stop stand-up? Because the show took off?
Yeah,
Or-
because we became a TV show in the UK and Australia.
Oh, no shit.
Oh, yeah, dude.
I never even knew that.
Yeah, because it never aired in America.
But were you on the show?
I was executive producer, and along with Paul Provenza and Barbara Roman, and we did a season. It starred Gilbert Gottfried, Robin Williams, T.J. Miller, Paul F. Tompkins. I mean, it was
Robin Williams.
Robin Williams was his favorite show, man. He used to come into Nerd Melt where you did the show,
Right.
And he'd be like, "Hey, Troy, do you have a list for me? I'm ready to go," and be like, "Yeah, man, I think I can make that happen."
Yeah.
Dude, it was amazing, dude. We had just such, it was like Maria Bamford and just an incredible
shooting
cast.
in Australia?
We shot it in London. We shot some in LA and then some in Mill Valley at
yeah.
the Throckmorton Theater. So that, because Robin Williams is in that area,
Right.
So that's where he did it. And then Pepitone he wanted Pepitone on that show. Kira Sultanovich, like he's like, I want to have Rick Overton, Kira, Pepitone on my
So
show.
there
Matt
were
Kirshen.
different episodes shot in different places?
Yeah, we did 12 episodes, and we shot them all. Yeah, we shot them in those 3 cities. And man, it was magic. And we were on right after Boardwalk Empire on Sky Atlantic, which is like their HBO.
That's incredible.
And it was amazing.
Never even knew this, dude, and I see you every day.
I know. Yeah, but that's that was what led me to that became full time. And we did the show at festivals all around the world. We did Galway Comedy Festival. We did Edinburgh. This is the first year in 9 years that we haven't done Edinburgh.
Yeah.
And it's running. It's still like it runs in all these different places, and we're kind of hands off with some of it. We already have people in place that
They're
are
still shooting the show?
No.
Oh, but
no.
you mean the live show? Runs
The
on
live
it.
show, yeah.
Right.
And then Chris Hardwick from Nerdist, he bought 60 episodes of the show for his YouTube channel. That was when YouTube was like starting to do a comedy, production.
Right.
And so we did that, so people can watch. As a matter of fact, Robin Williams that's when he first, did a taping. We were taping one night, and he came in. He goes, "Hey, can you get me on?" And we're like, "Yeah." And then we're like, "Look, we're taping tonight, but you have sign off on everything. Nothing goes live without your specific approval on every second of it." And he's like, "Okay."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah, I love it. Put it on." So you can watch Robin Williams doing it.
Did you get to hang with Robin a lot?
A lot, yeah. He was amazing, man. He was such a sweet human being. He was just exactly, when people say, yeah, he's the guy who just likes to come hang out backstage and just chill and stand in a circle and talk to the comic. He's always that way. And I always felt bad when people would get all fanned out, because it's like, hey, this guy's the biggest fucking star in the world. Just leave him alone. He's hanging with everybody. Don't come up and ask for a picture right now. Just like enjoy the fucking moment, because he was such a sweet, generous person.
That Nerd Melt I mean, you could never. You want to talk about organic?
Yeah.
You could never recreate a scene like that ever again. Nerd
I know,
Melt
man.
was a comic book store that started doing shows in the back. Was the Meltdown the first show?
Meltdown was the first show and the longest running show next to Setlist there. And man, it was absolutely a magical time. That was Kumail Nanjiani and Jonah Ray, and they ran that Meltdown show for I don't know how many years, but dude, it was so great.
Insane.
Every Wednesday night. And it was like the greatest place on Wednesdays that you could see comedy in LA. Like that.
Absolutely loved
And it was only this little theater in the back of a comic book store that fit like standing room. After the seats are gone, you could maybe cram in 120 people and just on a sweaty level, but it really fit like 90 people.
The biggest stars would come in.
Oh, everybody.
No drink orders, check
No
drops,
drinks.
nothing. No drinks, nothing. It was straight comedy.
$10, you come in, you see like an unbelievable show.
It was, and then the room, it just picked up. It was more famous than the comic book store towards the end.
Oh, totally.
It became a full podcast studio. Pete Holmes and all those guys were on podcast there.
Yep.
And then it was all kinds of comedy events.
Dude.
And now it's just gone. Which
It's gone. They lost their
In some
lease.
ways is great. It's just boom and then gone. It reminds me a lot of like an incredible club in LA for a while. Like, you know, people talk about the China Club or Opium Den. All these rooms that were magical for a while. Even the Viper Room when it was the first like 4 years. It's like, wow.
Like had that magic, that magic quality to it.
And that place was just insane.
Oh, it was amazing, man. It was a great time in comedy and such a good vibe. And, you know, it's gone. And I guess now they're doing like in the back parking lot, they do shows there.
In the parking lot?
In the parking lot.
Outside?
I forget. I want to say it's like Steve Agee and a couple other guys that, Howard Kramer.
Yeah.
And it's called Squat Melt. So they squat and they do a fucking show and they move it down the street and they do it in the parking lot.
What?
Dude, it's this whole thing. I haven't been to it yet, but
Steve Agee's
Howard,
my buddy. He hasn't even told me
I'm
about
pretty
it.
sure Steve is part of it, but I know
Right.
Howard Kramer, I think, is the main guy because he's like, dude, you got to come out and hang. And so one of these
Melt.
Wednesdays, I'm going to go.
Right, yeah. Okay, so once you sell the show and everything and you leave comedy, you also become kind of a go-to photographer for all the events and everything. And you even went out and shot like Tom Segura's tour and his album cover and stuff. Let's talk about this.
Oh,
what
dude.
happens in the photo world?
Yeah, man. He brought me on to shoot his Netflix special, and then he brought me some places on his tour. And it was just an amazing thing. And what I wanted to do, it's like, I wanted to make my value, and this is how whatever industry you're in, you should always be thinking of this. Like, you don't just get a gig and go, cool, I got the gig. I can just rest easy. Like, I want to make, when someone brings me on tour, I want to make them 5 times the amount of money that they pay me. So you bring me on tour, I'm going to give you a bunch of prints and a bunch of like amazing shit, not just for content. That's all right. That's worth it already. But for prints that you can sell and stuff like that, that the value of that, like you're getting all this stuff. So it's like you make more money bringing me on tour than you do not bringing me. That's my goal. Cause I want it to be like an insane value for people. So I loved the shit out of that. When I shot that Netflix special, the first special I shot was Greg Proops. That was like, 2013, 2014. And so I was like, I've done a bunch of stuff. I was ready for that, man. It was so exciting to shoot that. It was in Dallas at the Majestic.
Oh, wow.
It was incredible, man.
Wow.
Oh, no, sorry. No, I'm
Paramount.
sorry. No, it was in Denver at the Paramount.
Yeah,
and then later I did
that
Dallas.
venue is fucking killer.
Oh, my God.
I've done it 3 times, man. I did it one time. I go, well, this is great. I'll never be back here, but I'll enjoy this. I did it with Marin.
So
then I
good.
did it with Alice in Chains.
Wow.
Yeah, that was wild.
Oh, my God, dude.
And then I did it again. Maybe with Marin again. I can't even remember, but what a venue, man.
Dude, it's like it has the acoustics of a small rock club,
Yeah.
but it's this gigantic, beautiful, historic theater.
Yeah,
Like, it's
and a
just an
great
incredible
town.
place.
A
Yeah,
huge comedy town.
dude. Yeah, I know. I used to work. I used to work the what was the club there?
Comedy Works?
No, not Comedy Works.
Oh.
I worked the B rooms, man. I worked. What was the one in? Joey used to work there a lot.
Oh, the Improv?
No. Let's see. It was in Westminster. It was called I don't remember the name of it now. I worked it all the time, and it was one of those rooms where you weren't allowed to use your tape to get other gigs because people knew that room was too good.
Oh, like the Ice House.
Yeah, like the Ice House.
That was the thing on the Ice House.
Right,
You
when
turn
that
it
place
into
is
Tonight
full.
Show, they're like, nah, let's see your comedy store tape.
Yeah. Let's right. Let's see you in a room that's not totally full.
Yeah,
That's not that's a harder room.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, man, it was a really good time in comedy then.
How long were you doing comedy?
I did about 20 years.
20?
Yeah, I did 20 years from
shit.
'94 until.
Do you miss it?
I miss it. And you know what? I still do it once in a while. Someone will go, hey, do you want to come do this gig? And I'll do it. But I say, I'm a producer, man. Like, that's my brain. I realize I came to peace with that.
Yeah.
So when someone's like, hey, do you want to do this room? I'll go, I'll get you somebody better, man.
Yeah.
Like, who do you want? Who do you want? Like, because that's what I did. We had to book the talent on that show, man. But sometimes people are like, no, I want you to do it. My whole act was like a lot of it revolved around rock music. And I grew up I went to junior high at this like religious school, like not super religious, but it was like this Christian school where occasionally they'd have a guy come in and tell us that rock music was evil. You know, this is the 80s, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, you play it backwards and then Satan is talking to you, all that shit.
Yeah, Ozzy and the
Bit the head up
just
the back.
do it. Just do it. Oh, that song, Suicide Solution.
And so that stuff freaked me out. So when I got into stand-up and when I moved to L.A., it wasn't until I moved to L.A. when someone's like, I was telling that story to somebody and they're like, why don't you talk about that on stage? I was like, people don't care about that shit. I was like, they're like, no, you got it. So I went up as this character and basically he'd just come on. He'd be like, all right, you tell me a band, I'll tell you why it's going to make you worship the devil or turn you gay. Like, because that was the whole thing that they used to do. They'd be like, it's promoting homosexuality, the way they play those guitars. It's like a giant penis and all that shit. So I would just go on.
Would people just throw out bands like Leonard Skinner?
Dude, they throw out bands.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'd say, and I'd get bored because, again, I got that beautiful disease. And I'd be like, you can make up a band. You could tell me a local band that you saw in high school. Give me that. Give me a band I've never heard of, and I'll tell you. And so that was what I did, and I loved it. So here's the thing. With stand-up, that's what I miss, because that was all creation in the moment. And I think to me, that's what it's about. And I miss. And I still want to go up again soon. Because it's like this longing inside. It's like, man, I want to do it. Sometimes
you should just do Jeremiah's stand-up on the spot show, because then that is riffing.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. But this is like a specific character. Yeah, you're right. I should just do it as the character. Yeah, you're right. I should do it as the character. I never thought about that.
You guys are all fucking evil devils in the comedy stores, the belly of Satan.
That's right. That's right. Green Day, you might think they're okay, but if you take out the middle letters, it spells gay. Like all that kind of shit. Like I loved that because that was all in the moment. I got so bored with doing my act. There was a time where when Gilbert Gottfried did Set List, after the TV taping, I go, Gilbert, we were just like chilling out in the craft area. I go, do you ever get bored doing your act? Because he had so much fun doing it. I go, you ever get bored just doing your act? And he goes, sometimes I think I want to just go for coffee. Like in the middle. And I was like, dude, I want to just order a pizza.
Oh my God.
And I was like, yeah dude, I get it. Like I have that feeling. You probably have that feeling sometimes where it's like you want to step out.
I always, the feeling I get all the time is like, holy shit, this is some hard work. It really wins you. Oh, which by the way, I wanted to, this kind of hit me pretty, let's see if I can find this real quick, because it was something that I was like, this is amazing. Let's see. I think Joey Medina put this up on his Instagram, and it kind of describes it. Here, is this it? Here. One of the hardest decisions in life is choosing whether to walk away or try harder.
Dude,
Bam.
I love that, man.
Right?
When you want to quit, I always find when you want to quit something, that's exactly the time. It's like you feel the crossroads of that and you go, oh no. Like, have you ever had a gig where you go, man, I just don't even want to go to this thing tonight?
Oh yeah.
Like, and then you push through it and you do it and you go, fuck, I'm so glad I did that.
That's how life is. Some guy in the room that got me a gig later or whatever. And I was like, fuck, I was on the couch. I almost blew this off.
Life is just throwing you like a little bait to go, hey, you want to give up today, motherfucker?
That's what it is.
And you just have to learn, oh man, when I take that bait, I start withdrawing, you know? Like there's an amazing book called The Dip by Seth Godin. It's one of the best it's a tiny book too. You can read it in fucking hour and a half.
The Dip?
The Dip by Seth Godin. But if you want a great synopsis of the book, he gives a talk, a 10-minute talk. You can just Google it. It's called Quieting the Lizard Brain. And it's exactly about that giving up. Because the dip it's like you start off really high, like, hey, I want to learn how to play guitar. And you buy the guitar and there's that excitement. Now you have to do all this hard work. And that's when it goes into the dip. So you either quit before you hit that dip, or you go through it and then you keep going. Because it's a waste if you hit the dip and then quit. Most people quit at the bottom of that dip. Like, oh, it's really fun to shoot a movie. Yep, that's true. Now you got to fucking edit it. That's the dip. That's not easy.
Yeah.
I've had that because my background too is a filmmaker. So I always wanted to quit after everything was in the can because the fun part just fucking happened.
Well, it gets really, me being the 10th year in, it gets really fucking hard the longer you do it. People always think, they look at me surprised when I say that. And I say it because it gets harder, hopefully because the bar gets raised. The bar gets raised. You're like, this stuff isn't good.
Yeah.
I want to get better.
Yeah.
I want to be a better artist. And then it gets harder. You're like, fuck, none of this shit's good. Am I even funny? I don't know what I'm trying to say here. How can I write new material to get to the next level? All that stuff.
Dude, if you're not waking up every day with those kind of thoughts, then you're not fully in touch because that's part of the human experience.
Yeah.
It's like we have to have that self-doubt, whatever. And then that's basically like the rudder. And you steer that fucking rudder in the right direction. You self-correct because that's part of that experience.
I was just reading a quote from Jimmy Page in the new Steve Gorman book, the drummer for the Black Crowes, who played with Jimmy Page and did that live run Black Crowes Jimmy Page tour.
Wow.
And he said something he said to Jimmy one day, he goes, hey man, after all these years, you ever get nervous out there? And he goes, if you're not nervous before you go on, it's because you're not trying anything new.
Yes.
And that hit me like a fucking ton of bricks too. Like, man, that is so true.
Yep.
Try something like your show.
Out of your orbit,
like
out of your comfort zone. Yeah.
Outside of the box of like, oh my God, this is nothing I have ever done. I am screwed here.
That's exactly why Robin loved that show so much because he was like, this show makes me shit my pants. Like he said that to me. He's like, man, I feel like I'm going to shit my pants every time. And that's when,
especially
and that's
Robin, the expectation of like, oh, here comes a superstar Robin. And then they go, oh, he's eating it.
Right, but he killed it every time.
Oh, I know,
because
but
that's
I'm just saying in his mind, that's what he's thinking.
Right, totally.
Like, oh my God, what if I eat it? You know?
And for a guy like that at his level, where it's like if you eat it, it makes the newspaper.
I know,
and like that's scary for those big guys.
Yeah.
And that's why it's amazing that he was willing to step into that arena. And, never in the history of that show have we ever given anyone anything like any advance notice. We're just like, we're just going to fuck with you and give you the most challenging stuff and let you free fall.
Yeah.
It's like you're skydiving and we're also going to have a tank next to you on a parachute shooting fucking cannons at you. So enjoy it. That's what it's like, man. And there's always ways you can challenge yourself. And when in stand up, when I started getting bored, I would just like, I used to do this thing. I used to work Laughs in Tucson. That was one of my home clubs. And before the show, because I used to get so bored, I'd put a shirt and tie on, and I'd walk through the audience before the show with a clipboard, and I'd say, I'm from the local radio station. We just got some questions, and I'd ask them about, like, what drugs do you do, and, how often do you guys have sex, and all this stuff. We're just doing some marketing. And, because they didn't know who I was. And I'd go on and I'd walk up there and I go, somebody hand me that clipboard that you guys were passing around.
Oh, that's so great.
And then I would do that. That scared the shit out of me. And sometimes it would fail miserably.
Yeah.
But when it worked, it was the best fucking thing. Like, I'd never trade any of the good or bad. But there's always a way to challenge yourself,
Yeah.
And you see a lot more crowd work shows now.
Oh,
I love
tons.
that happens. I love that people are doing specials with crowd work. Todd Berry.
Yep.
Big Jay Okerson. Who else? A bunch of people have done that. I love that shit.
I love doing a combo of crowd work and material. It's my favorite to weave in and out of that.
Yep.
Because when that's all going good, there's nothing more radical to see than the organic weave in and out of crowd work and material.
Dude, it's a way to push yourself and then still be grounded,
Yep.
You have to have that. I just remember it's being bored with doing that same routine. And there's a value in that because sure, you can get everything really tight, but there's I think a greater value in that free fall, in the fear and the terror that comes with, I don't know what I'm going to do here. And when it goes poorly, you get that, that feeling when you started stand-up. I remember when I was new, one of the first clubs I worked, Laughs Unlimited in Sacramento, and the manager came up to me afterwards and he goes, "Hey man, your stuff's just not cutting it." And I go, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "I saw what you're doing up there." He goes, "You're kind of filling in." He goes, "Let me guess." He goes, "You got a good 20 minutes and the rest you're filling in with bullshit." And he called me out, dude.
Whoa.
I was like, oh, dude, let me tell you
That's
something.
crazy.
I know. I'll tell you, his name was Scott Edwards, that guy. I remember him. And, and I'll tell you what, dude, I went back to the condo in a dark depression. I want to die. Should I? And it was like, that was Friday night. And it's like, fuck, man. He
Still got Saturday to do.
He had me figured out. I still had Saturday and Sunday. And I went home and I looked through my set list and I looked through I had like a notebook of other stuff. And I'm like, fuck, I do have to step it up, man. He was right. If you don't have somebody that calls you out like that fucking, those defining moments, then you might not grow as much. And I went back the next day and fucking, I was just really focused, and I nailed it. Like, it was great. And after that Sunday night show, he handed me a little slip of paper, and I was like, "Oh no, don't tell me he's gonna fire me." And it had 3 dates in it for the rest of the year. He gave me 3 fucking dates. Who does that?
That's fucking.
But that's how that guy booked stuff.
Right,
if he liked you, he'd give you 2 or 3 dates at a time.
That's amazing.
And I ended up loving that club.
What was your, I know you're a big Stanhope fan, and I absolutely love Stanhope, and you shot the End of the World.
The End of the World podcast, the night of the election in 2016.
That was an incredible
election.
night. It was just probably one of the big defining nights of the Comedy Store.
Oh, dude.
To put together, it was basically, we were running I wasn't, but I was there. They were running the live election on the screens.
Yeah.
And it was in the main room, and it was Stanhope, Rogan, Burr, Marilyn Manson was there.
Marilyn Manson, Russell Peters. Eleanor Kerrigan.
Yeah, I was on it.
Sarah Tiana, you.
Yeah.
Dude, it was everybody. It was like this fucking all-star.
Yeah.
It was just this amazing
all-star and me.
Yeah, no, dude, but it was like the best of the Comedy Store came out for that night.
Oh yeah,
and it was all the voices that make up. It was like those were the stars in the universe of comedy.
Yeah,
and to be there on that night when everything was flipped upside down, when everyone knew what was going to happen. Yeah. And then as the podcast is going about an hour and a half in, and maybe an hour in, they're like, it looks like Trump's winning, and then everything just went fucking crazy. Bert Kreischer was there.
Yeah, Bert Kreischer.
Yeah, it was.
It was insane. Actually,
it was amazing.
But it was one of the magic shows of the store because it was so
Yep.
organic. There was no format. It was Doug was putting on this thing, the End of the World podcast.
Yeah.
We're going to watch the election and it's going to be the end of the world right
Yeah.
now. And man, it was about 6 hours, I think. And
Yeah.
that audience have a fucking ride.
Look, that's the only time you're going to see a 6-hour show at the Comedy Store where nobody leaves.
No one left.
Other than like Chappelle or something, right?
And the arc that it took.
Oh
it was
my
just
God,
all party,
dude.
party, party
And then-
fun.
yeah,
and then
and-
all of a sudden, like, what the fuck? Then it got serious.
And people were yelling, people were angry.
Oh, it was crazy.
People were going crazy.
it
dude.
was alive, man.
And it was all there. Like, I love that got recorded because if that didn't get recorded,
Yeah.
it would still be as legendary and we'd still be always talking about it. But now people can fucking go and watch it. But back in the day, you just had to have those were things of legend and story. It was all these events kept happening, right?
Yeah.
Between the news and the people that were yelling and angry.
It was crazy.
Dude, it was an amazing night. And like, I can't think of another night in America. Like, what other place in America could you be on that night other than in the rooms with the candidates?
It's never, it's
That would have
never
been more eventful.
It'll never happen again either.
Oh
Like,
my God. No, it will
Yeah,
never
yeah.
have that level of surprise.
What do you got going now? So you shoot at the store quite a bit. You shoot,
Yeah,
still
I
shoot
shoot
the
all
roast beef?
over. Yeah, I shoot all over. I shoot events pretty much every night, and then I shoot portraits, promo sessions, headshot stuff for comics mostly during the day, afternoons. And I work out of Hollywood and La Brea, and so I'm editing. I got 2 part-time employees that help me with the editing overflow.
So you're making a full-blown living.
Dude, I make a living.
Right.
I don't make a full-blown living, but let me tell you, man, it took a lot of years to get to a point where I could have an office and studio space and really the gear that I've always wanted. To be able to do that is, believe me, every day I go, man, I'm so blessed, so fortunate, so lucky. And for me, that's what it's about. I'm a love of the game guy. I'll do it if I have to eat PB&J, but I don't have to do that anymore,
I'm looking forward to the day, and I truly believe this is going to happen. I'm looking forward to the day of the Comedy Store coffee table book.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I really think that that's going to be something that everyone will sign off on, and it'll be beautiful, like the silver prints that you just brought to me of the Power Age concert.
Oh yeah, dude. By the way, I don't think so. I also have a really nice printer, and I make these prints, and I don't think people should print on like for what I do. I don't want to print on regular paper anymore, man.
Yeah.
There's a reason we call it the silver screen. When you go to the movie theater, that is not a white piece of fabric up there. That is actual silver. The cost of those screens are enormous. I don't even know how much they cost, but they are tens of thousands of dollars. There is actual real silver inside that screen, and I like to print on that material. So instead of black and white, it's black and silver. That's the one thing you can't get from Instagram, man. That's the one thing you can't get when you're looking at a screen is silver. And
I'm looking forward to that. I think the book will happen.
Oh, that'd
'cause
be cool, man.
They got that anniversary book that they sell from
20 years ago. From the 20-year anniversary,
Yeah.
which was probably like 15 something years ago, 20 years
Yeah,
ago.
well, we just had to think the 44th or something.
Yeah, so it would have been, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, so 24 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's like Robin and
That's cool.
Saget.
That's cool to see that book. So
Yeah.
then to see, the Joey Diaz, the Rogan, the Marin, the
Yeah,
Jeselnik, the
Yeah.
Sebastian, the Ali Wong,
Totally,
the
man.
Crystalia, the Chappelle, all
Yeah.
this mighty force of the store.
Totally.
That'd
be cool.
And you've documented how many photos you think you've taken of the store?
Oh, dude.
5,000.
You mean taken?
Yeah. I mean, like shot at the store. Like, what do you think?
Dude,
like 10,000
If
photos?
you're talking about photos I've taken,
yeah.
So I mean, as far as like, well, there's taken
Of
and there's
course
ones
you
that are
shoot,
good,
like,
right?
Yeah, you shoot like 2,000 at
like
a roast
I
battle.
shoot one of the things I think that is that I learned from shooting roast battle is you have to shoot a lot of photo, especially
Yeah.
with comedy. You have to shoot a lot of photos, and you have to keep your shutter. I push my shutter speed to a boundary because when you lower your shutter speed, shit's gonna be blurry. But if you take enough photos, that's why people make fun of me. Like I'm like, hey guys, real quick picture. I might have to take 10
Yeah.
for people standing still because the low light is so. I'm doing it in a short amount of time. It's in the dark. Trust me, I'm doing the right thing. I know it sounds weird that thing clicked 20 times, but if you want to know how many I've taken, dude, I'll give you an estimate. As far as just, let's give a number I've snapped.
Yeah.
Including the shitty ones, which is 99% of them.
Yep.
I'm going to say 700,000 at
Wow.
least. 800,000
Wow.
probably.
Whoa, man.
Has to be at least that.
That is wild, right?
I know. And I don't know. I got like
Do you dump the
40
shitty ones?
I have
Say
40.
that-
No, I have 40 terabytes of
Wow.
of
40 terabytes.
40 terabytes of stuff, which almost all photos. And again, it's a lot of shitty photos. But that's why the reason that like that's part of being a professional, and that's part of like, you know, why it's I take it really seriously.
Yeah.
Because you can't just be an amateur and like, oh, I'm going to go home, I'm going to load these photos, and I'll just send you. It's like, no, you got to go through a lot of photos. That takes time. Now you got to select those and put those into a batch and put those into a project and then go through those and then find. It's like you're panning for gold, man, and you're sifting them out. And you're even letting some of those little flakes go right through the screen, but you want to find the gold in there.
I think the most beautiful photo you have, hands down for me, and it's in your Instagram. I believe you posted it on Brody Stevens' birthday, but it's Brody pulling out of the lot.
Oh, yeah.
And he's smiling at you like he always does, like, you got it.
Yes.
And it's basically, to me, there it is. Brody leaving in his
I know.
leather exterior.
Leather exterior.
And there he is. You captured it. You've got the Comedy Store marquee behind him. He's
Yeah.
in the drive. He's driving out of the parking lot.
Yeah.
He's smiling, and I look at it
So
right
Brody.
there, and it's
Dude.
it reminds me of all of us every night when we leave the place and we head home to lay down, and we think
Yeah.
about like another great night at the store or another bad night of material didn't work. Whatever it is, it was good night, thank you, and you got this great one of Brody, and I love looking at that photo because it really captures.
Dude, that the story with that is I was walking. I was already done. It was like, you know, whatever. It was like 1:30 in the morning after roast battle, and I was already down the street, and I'm walking home. I got my backpack on, and Brody turns around. Brody pulls out and goes. He's like, Troy, I'm on the sign.
Oh yeah, I'm on the
And
side.
I go, dude, we got to get that. And so he just parked right there, and we did it. And I had to composite that shot because it was 1 a.m. It was in the dark.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, we can't make this in focus with you and the sign.
Right,
so I had to
right.
take.
Oh,
I
so
had
you
to
shot
take,
the sign
I had
in
to
that?
take multiples and composite.
That's fucking beautiful.
Because it was literally one of you is going to be in the distance
That's how it is.
unless you want to sit there for 60 seconds while I'm on a tripod like we're doing a fucking astrophotography shoot.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that was I love that man, and his energy lives on every single day.
Yeah. And I love that you have these beautiful photos of him and everybody else that's been working in the store in the history of the last 6 years or whatever, that we've been seeing these photos.
Oh, man.
And I can't thank you enough. And also,
Thanks, brother.
just giving me and the other comics amazing photos to give to these clubs that just select some shit photo off Google image of you with a triple chin, you know, like your
Dude.
first photo ever. They're like, this one's fine. And you get to Oklahoma to do comedy, and there's these posters around the room where you're just like, ah. So
Dude,
to be able to have these
Thanks,
pro photos and to give them to a club and represent the Comedy Store in another club that you're working at just brings a little bit of that store and you wherever I am at on the road.
Dude, thanks, man. That's literally why I do what I do. I want badasses to look like the badasses they are. When I shot last year, I shot Eddie Izzard at the Dynasty. He did a week residency in development, and he goes, no photographers, nobody's taking pictures, not pro, not anybody. He told the theater that, and I called up and I go, tell Eddie I want to shoot him, and it's going to be great. And I knew he used to do set list,
right?
And so he's like, yeah, okay. And he had me come in. He goes, the reason I don't let anyone shoot me is, he goes, because people do a shitty job shooting comedy. He goes, I like old rock. I like rock photography. So I like the way that looks. He goes, when people take comics pictures, it's always their mouth is all twisted. And it's like, oh, dude, I know. And I said to him, I go, we did shots in between his shows. He goes, but not on stage, nothing on stage. I go, cool. I go, I'm going to go now. But I go, if you want me, I'll stay and I'll shoot you like a rock star. And he goes, all right.
Yeah.
And I go, I'll run everything by you. And he ended up using everything for tour, and it was great.
Well, you definitely shoot, the way you shot the Power Age concert, it's some of the most incredible. That photo I posted up of the whole venue before we open.
Oh,
and
yeah,
the guys
yeah.
doing sound and we're sound checking. That shit just looks like,
it's a beautiful setting, man.
oh man,
You gotta
it
get
just
that.
spells rock and roll.
That was
right
a 12
there.
millimeter. That was the 12 millimeter f2. I
Yeah.
want to get the whole room in there. That place was beautiful.
Yeah, I love it, man. You, Ronnie Lyons, Steve Rose, all these great
Yeah.
guys I've had on the show. But you especially really mean a lot to me because you've shot the whole time at the store, and I love to be able to look at these photos while I'm there getting ready to go on for inspiration. Like, oh my God, look at the people here and look at this, you know?
Yeah, man. It really is an amazing time. I'm glad to be there, man. And I'm glad you're there. It's a beautiful, magical time that we get to experience.
Oh man, thank you for doing the show.
Yeah,
Tell
dude.
everybody we got the Instagram.
Yeah,
Troy
Troy Conrad's
Conrad's
with an S at the end of my name.
Yeah, Troy Conrad's.
That's right.
And then you can catch Troy all the time, popping around shows all over town, taking photos. And you can contact him if you want to buy a print, right?
I don't have a system right now for that, but I mean, people
Just
can
hit him
always
on Instagram.
People can DM me or something, and
Yep.
whatever. But yeah, I haven't really done that, but I'm gonna. And yeah.
I thank you for shooting, giving me these incredible photos, especially that Power Age show.
Love of the game, brother.
Yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to leave a review on iTunes and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or the YouTube channel. And I've got that brand new patreon.com/Dean Del Rey channel with all the bonus episodes. We're up to number 44 now. Thank you for tuning in. Keep the candles lit and follow Troy Conrad's on Instagram. I love all you guys. See ya.